Today, we're going to journey into what I think is one of the most insightful books of the 20th century. It's called Love and Will by the psychologist Rollo.
This book came out all the way back in 1969, but what's so powerful about it is that it diagnosed a cultural crisis that feels like it could have been written yesterday. As we explore its core ideas, I think you'll see just how prescient May's analysis of the modern world really was. It's honestly more relevant now than ever.
And this right here, this is the central thesis of the entire work. May's core idea is that love and will, the very things we've always looked to as the solutions to life's problems, have somehow, in our time, become the problems themselves. They've become the source of our anxiety. And that's our starting point.
So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to follow May's own logic. First, we'll diagnose the problem, what he called the modern crisis. Then, we'll look at its two main symptoms, our struggle with love and the paralysis of will. And finally, we'll get to his powerful antidote, the idea of care.
All right, so let's start with the diagnosis. What exactly is this crisis that May identified over 50 years ago? He gave it a name, the schizoid world.
Now, it's really important to be clear here. When May uses the word schizoid, he is not talking about a clinical disorder, not at all. He's describing a widespread cultural tendency, a kind of societal default setting of detachment, of emotional numbness, a way of being that keeps us from truly connecting with each other, and maybe even with ourselves.
And the consequences of this are severe. When a society becomes schizoid, the old stories and myths that once gave us meaning just seem to vanish. Anxiety skyrockets. We're left with this gnawing sense of being insignificant, of feeling powerless to make a difference. And this powerlessness, it breeds apathy, a state that May warns is just one step away from violence.
So let's turn to the first major casualty of this crisis, love. How does our ability to be intimate break down in a world that practically encourages us to be detached? May noticed this fascinating paradox. He saw that the more we lost the real meaning of love, the more we obsessed over the mechanics and techniques of sex. It's a very human thing to do, isn't it? When we lose our way, we often just start running faster. We fixate on the how-to mask a much deeper spiritual emptiness. To explain what it is we've lost, May brings back the classical Greek concept of eros. And again, this isn't just a fancy word for sex. Eros is the creative life force. It's that drive to connect, to unite, to create something new. Whether that's a child, a work of art, or a deeper understanding of the world. And the contrast is just so stark. Eros is about the whole person seeking a creative union. But modern sex, May argues, often gets reduced to just a physiological function, a simple release of tension that, when it's totally cut off from Eros, can become completely meaningless. To get back to true Eros, May says we have to confront what he calls the daemonic. Now, this isn't about evil or demons. The daemonic is any natural urge inside us that's powerful enough to take over our entire personality. Think about things like anger or the drive for power. It's a fundamental energy that can be creative or destructive, and we have to integrate it, not repress it, if we want to truly love. This powerful quote really gets to the heart of the matter. May believed that the intensity of love, its preciousness, is completely inseparable from our awareness that we will die. The knowledge that our time here is limited is exactly what makes passionate, ecstatic love possible in the first place.
Okay, so that's the problem with love. But what about the other half of the equation? Let's turn to the modern struggle with will, our ability to choose, to decide, and to actually act.
May draws this really sharp contrast. The Victorians had willpower, a rigid, almost punishing force they used to deny their inner wishes. But our problem is the complete opposite. We suffer from what he calls a disordered will, which is the inability to even know what we wish for. The question for us is no longer, how do I do it, but has become, how do I even decide what to do? This line from Beckett's masterpiece is just the perfect metaphor for this modern paralysis. We know what we should do, we even say the words out loud, let us go, but then we remain stuck. We're unable to translate that intention into action. We are waiting, but we do not move.
So we have a crisis of love and a crisis of will. What's the way out of this? This brings us to May's brilliant, and I think profoundly simple, solution: the concept of care.
May's crucial insight is this. Before we can love and before we can will, we first have to care. Care is that fundamental state of recognizing that something matters. It is the definitive cure for apathy. It's that feeling that allows us to look at a person or an idea or a value and say, this is important to me. And here's how it works, in a beautiful, logical progression. Care is the starting point. Once we truly care about something, we find the will to act. We naturally want to protect and nurture whatever is important to us. And from that committed action, that's where authentic love can finally emerge. A love that's based not on a fleeting feeling, but on a deep devotion to another's well-being.
This distinction is everything. Biology gives us life. It ensures our survival. But meaning, purpose, all the things that make up a good life, those only come from what we choose to care about. It's a deep psychological and spiritual necessity.
And this is the great task that May sets for us. Uniting love and will isn't something that just happens automatically. It's a conscious, ongoing project. It's the work of becoming a fully integrated human being, of learning to love what we choose and to choose what we love.
So we end with the question that Rollo May's work really leaves us with. It's simple, but it's everything. In a world that so often encourages us not to feel, not to get involved, what is it that truly matters to you? What is it you care about enough to act on?